here in Charlotte. He's a media channel. 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 I hear him say that you should move the chair. I hear him say that you should move the chair.
We are shortly ready to start our ceremony. But before we do, please join me once again in thanking our magnificent string quartet. We hope today that you have the most wonderful, memorable experience, which you will look back on in years to come with a great sense of pride. Before we start the ceremony, I do have 3 key messages to share with you. In the very unlikely event of us needing to evacuate our venue, please leave via the nearest exit, which might be behind you. Please follow our ushers to the assembly points. Guests requiring assistance will be escorted. Please take a moment now to see where your nearest exit is. In line with our firm commitment to our planet, our graduation program is available digitally. You'll be able to follow the ceremony easily, as the list of names in the program will broadly match the order in which our graduands take to the stage. Please do remember to switch your phones and devices onto silent. I know that at some points you will want to whoop, cheer and applaud, and I want you to know that we strongly embrace that here at Royal Holloway. So please do so with gusto. What I would ask of you though is that you whoop, cheer and applaud and then quietly pause, so that our next graduand, soon to be graduate, and their supporters can enjoy their moment too. This ceremony is being filmed, and our professional photographers will be taking that all-important picture of our graduates receiving their scroll. So as much as I know you'll want to capture that moment with your camera, please can I ask that you don't obstruct the view of the people behind you. And finally, at the end of our ceremony, our graduates will leave first, followed by our guests. Thank you. If you are able, please stand for the arrival of the procession.
Please take your seats. Guests, families, supporters and friends, on behalf of the University, I am delighted to welcome you to Royal Holloway on this very important occasion, our winter graduation ceremony. It is wonderful to see so many of you here, and we welcome those of you visiting for the first time, those returning to a place that has become familiar, and anyone who is watching this on a screen from around the world. To everyone we extend a warm Royal Holloway welcome, and we hope you enjoy this ceremony and have a truly memorable and happy day. Graduates from the School of Life Sciences and the Environment will be presented at this ceremony. The first group of graduates presented are those who've been awarded master's degrees, followed by students with Doctor of Philosophy or Doctor of Clinical Psychology degrees. With great pleasure, then, I welcome the Executive Dean of the School of Life Sciences and the Environment, Professor Klaus Dodds.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you as the Exec Dean of the School of Life Science and Environment. And I'd like to personally extend the most warmest of welcomes to the winter graduation ceremony party today and to all the honoured guests and supporters. I'd like to take a moment, if I may, just to express my personal pride that I take in presiding over an event such as this and in recognising the achievements of our graduates. They're currently sat behind me in an adjoining room watching me address them via a live video link, and I hope I will do them justice in the praise that I offer them. We will have the opportunity to recognise their achievements, and we will be able to witness them take the stage, doff their cap, and receive a scroll, and at the same time also enjoy well-earned recognition from those of you who are with us today and online. And I'm also really delighted that we have our presiding officer here today, namely Professor Julie Sanders, Vice-Chancellor and Principal, and, importantly, our student orator, Lucy Carney. And thank you, Lucy, for agreeing to be the student orator. Congratulations to everyone gathered here today. At this ceremony, we recognise and indeed we celebrate the collective achievements of our students who have followed various postgraduate programmes within the departments of the School of Life Sciences and Environment. And if you don't know who those departments are, then let me tell you. Biological Sciences, Earth Sciences, Geography, Health Studies, and Psychology. And those departments, in the case of Geography and Psychology in particular, have been extremely highly ranked in recent years, combining research excellence, inspirational teaching, and collaborations within the UK and beyond. And postgraduate students who we are recognising and celebrating today are absolutely integral to the highly ranked departments that we enjoy within the School of Life Science and Environment, and their studies in themselves absolutely reflect the vitality and diversity of the school. And when I reflect on quite how extraordinary that diversity is, I find myself thinking about the following topics: societal well-being, transforming energy sources, mental health, gene therapy, industrial biotech, pollination economy, climate and environmental change, global development and geopolitics, sustainability, cultural geography, and the relationship between place and identity. And moreover, we also have a doctorate in clinical psychology, which produces health professionals who will go on to tackle pressing mental health challenges that so many face within our communities and societies. All of our postgraduates within the school and beyond will graduate with knowledge and skill not only to study the world, but I genuinely hope to make it a better place as well. However challenging and discombobulating it seems at the present, and I speak to you as a professor of geopolitics, it is one ultimately shaped by human actions and interactions. And I hope that will also provide us with a source of hope as well. We look forward, graduates, to hearing about your achievements. And of course, we wish you all the very best as you embark on the next stage of your professional lives. Again, with the profound recognition and admiration, I wish all the graduates the very best on behalf of the School of Life Sciences and Environment. With great pleasure, we can now move on to the presentation of the graduates, and I'm sure you will give them a big cheer as they come before you. And it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage the Head of Department of Geography, Professor Danielle Shreve. Thank you.
Professor Julie Sanders, Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I would like to present graduates from the Department of Geography. For the award of postgraduate diploma degrees from the Department of Geography, Holly Murchison. For the award of Master of Science degrees by research from the Department of Geography, and with the prize of MA for Best Overall Performance, Abigail Chung. For the award of Master of Science degrees from the Department of Geography, Owen Ford. Najam Us Saqib Kashmiri. Chung Hin Law. Sarah Newton. And with the MA Prize for the most valuable contribution to the course, Kirsten Rowland. With the MA MSc Dissertation Prize, Jack Seagrove. Elliot Coggins. Monty Hobbs. Naomi Jones. And with the Edward Derbyshire Prize for the Best Overall Performance and the Philippa Holmes Memorial Prize for the Best Dissertation in any area of sedimentology and/or stratigraphy, Samantha Newman. Adam Purvis. Poppy Saywell. James Clutton. Hannah Dunn. Thomas Griffin. Tessa Robinson. George Welsh. For the award of Doctor of Philosophy degrees from the Department of Geography, for the thesis entitled Collecting a Paper World Experiment, Commerce and Plant Fibres for Papermaking at the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, supervised by Professor Felix Driver and Professor Mark Nesbitt, Frankie Kabitsky. With the thesis, The Making of a Chronologist, Cinchona, Collections and Science in the Work of John Eliot Howard, 1807 to 1883, supervised by Professor Felix Driver and Professor Mark Nesbitt, Kimberly Walker. With the title From the Street to the Stadium and Back Again, an analysis of the neo-liberalisation of skateboarding following its inclusion into the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, supervised by Professor Ollie Mould and Professor Phil Crane, Rhys Gazer de Baradieu. That concludes the presentation of graduates from the Department of Geography. Please welcome the Director of Clinical Psychology, Professor Helen Pote.
Professor Julie Sanders, Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I would like to present graduates from the Department of Psychology. For the award of Doctor of Clinical Psychology degrees from the Department of Psychology, Serena Afsali, for the thesis title, Validation of a Novel Stimulus Set Depicting Physical and Emotional States, Preliminary Evidence of Applicability and Understanding Sex Differences in Attributions, supervised by Dr. Jenny Murphy. Serena. For the thesis title, Dimensionality Assessment of the Measure of Mundane Meaning, supervised by Dr. Gary Brown, Olga Andrew. For the thesis, Perceived Credibility and in an Asylum-Seeking Context, the Effect of Emotions on Decision-Making, supervised by Professor Amina Memon and Dr. Zoe Given-Wilson, Emma Bailey. Help-seeking in women living with HIV who have experienced intimate partner violence, supervised by Professor Michael Evangeli, Dr. Olga Lusson and Professor Yvonne Guillichet. Leah Beretti. Data-driven subtyping of executive function and behaviour across infancy and childhood following preterm birth. Raj Saraya Batoa. Forgotten first-time fathers, understanding their experiences of postnatal depression, supervised by Dr. Olga Lusson. Jackie Champagne. Stable versus variable predictors of mental health in individuals residing in England during the COVID-19 pandemic, supervised by Dr. Jenny Murphy. Joanne Chung. An augmented reality board game for adolescent well-being, intervention effects and mechanisms of change, supervised by Professor Helen Pote and Dr. Sarah Campbell. Holly Clark. Experience of pregnancy and birthing for trans and non-binary people in the UK, supervised by Nuno Nodin, Jay McNeil, AJ Lowick and Helen Green. Ollie Coe. Loneliness entering a pregnancy study. The impact of a 4-week digital psychosocial intervention upon parental loneliness within first-time parents. Supervised by Professor Helen Pote. Ashley Dale. Exploring the preliminary effectiveness of a personalised wellbeing app for staff in healthcare settings, supervised by Dr. Jessica Kingston. Yasmin Dandil. Exploring over-controlled personality traits in individuals with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, supervised by Dr. Alex Falk. Eleanor Horton. A pilot RCT assessing feasibility and acceptability of a single values-based versus standard goal-setting session for community dwellers with acquired brain injury. Maggie Carenciu. Multisystemic therapy in the context of intimate partner violence, parents and practitioners' experiences, supervised by Dr. Emily Glorney and Dr. Simone Fox. Lucy Carney. An online guided self-help intervention for sexual distress for female survivors of sexual assault, a single-case experimental study, supervised by Professor Andy MacLeod and Dr. Jane Vosper. Kimberly Koo. How does trauma influence the use of restrictive practice in acute adult inpatient settings, supervised by Dr. Gail Wingham and Dr. Stuart Reid. Natalia Kazupi. Working with domestic abuse within clinical psychology, a competency framework, supervised by Dr. Olga Luson. Yasmin Lau. Parents' perceptions of engagement in multisystemic therapy for child abuse and neglect, supervised by Professor Andy MacLeod and Martin Robinson. Verity Leeson Mill. What has happened to you? Rehumanising services for people with learning disabilities, supervised by Dr. Kate Theodore. Megan Leverington. Qualitative exploration of the therapeutic process facilitating appointments at the My Body Back cervical screening service for women who have experienced sexual violence, supervised by Professor Michael Evangeli and Dr. Jane Vosper. Ashley Madigan. Which multiple sclerosis patient and disease factors are associated with relatives' perceptions of the cognition of people with multiple sclerosis? Supervised by Professor Dawn Langdon and Professor Carolyn Young. Katarzyna Marek. The effects of positive prospective imagery on emotion, motivation, future self-continuity and behavioural engagement. Supervised by Professor Andy MacLeod. Robin McHugh. The experience and role of dissociation in subclinical psychosis following developmental trauma, a mixed method study, supervised by Dr. Katie Ashcroft and Professor Michael Bloomfelt. Irene Malegovitz. Polyvagal informed therapy for body awareness and managing emotions for people living with obesity, a multiple baseline study, supervised by Dr. Katie Ashcroft and Dr. Esme Banting. Alexandria Phillips. Predictors of child abuse potential in a sample of parents at risk of maltreatment. The role of epistemic trust, parenting stress, and parental representations. Supervised by Dr. Gary Brown and Dr. Michelle Sleed. Shareem Ponticelli. Accuracy of the brief international cognitive assessment for multiple sclerosis, the BICAMS, when scored by multiple sclerosis healthcare professionals, and the impact on those professionals and their patients' perception of cognitive impairment, supervised by Professor Dawn Langdon. Hannah Potticary. Investigating the onset and trajectory of Alzheimer's disease in Down syndrome, supervised by Dr. Kate Theodore, Dr. Joe Bathelt, and Dr. Karen Dodd. Olivia Pounds. Systemic evidence-based practices for children on the edge of care, a qualitative exploration of leadership in collaborative implementation, supervised by Dr. Joel Harvey and Dr. Tom Jefford. Charlotte Rose. An augmented reality wellbeing game for young people, engagement and psychological mechanisms of change, supervised by Professor Helen Pote and Dr. Sarah Campbell. Louisa Rubio. Parents' experiences of caring for a child with an eating disorder, including exploration of the impact of financial challenges, supervised by Professor Dawn Langdon and Dr. Nadia Rankeva. Hannah Shaw. We're not surviving anymore, we're just existing. There's no real life to this. Lived experiences of the psychological impact of the building safety crisis, supervised by Dr. Gail Wingham and Dr. Pinder Kaur. Nicholas Smith. Untangling the complexities of bullying, validation of the bullying experience questionnaire, and exploring the network dynamics between bullying victimization, childhood trauma, attachment, mentalization, and borderline personality disorder. Supervised by Dr. Pinder Kaur, Professor Peter Fonagy and Dr. Tobias Nolt. Tanya Tan Liwen. Fathers with learning disabilities experiences of the attachment relationship with their children. Supervised by Dr. Kate Theodore. Ava Wilmots. That concludes the presentation of graduands from the Department of Psychology.
So I would now like to introduce our student orator who will deliver a speech on behalf of those whom we are celebrating here today. Please welcome Lucy Carney.
Good afternoon, friends, family, faculty, and of course my fellow graduates. It is an honour to speak today as we celebrate this momentous occasion and reflect upon our time at Royal Holloway. Although we don't know everyone in this room, we are connected by our experiences here and the successful completion of our degrees. A culmination of years of hard work, dedication, and perseverance. We are a group of individuals who have weathered challenges, embraced opportunities, and demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity. Our cohort's experience at Royal Holloway has been unique. I'm sure, like many of you sat here today, we started our degree at a time of uncertainty. As a course, we only met once at an induction day before we were thrown into another lockdown and online learning. I think I can speak on behalf of my cohort here that when we imagined our clinical doctorate training, none of us envisaged this. The perpetual struggle of forgetting to unmute or to remute ourselves when trying to contribute in lectures, or role-playing therapy situations with our housemates and partners only meters away. However, what we lacked in luck for timing, we made up for in our ability to form lasting friendships under difficult circumstances. We banded together pretty instantaneously, meeting up when we could and sharing our anxieties and advice on a WhatsApp group. No question was too trivial, and I always knew I could rely on the group to help with the client I was struggling with and be met with useful tips and no judgment. To go through an intense 3-year period and come out unscathed as a supportive unit without fractures or tensions is no mean feat, and something I have never taken for granted. I'm sure this experience is not unique to our cohort, and everyone in this room will have found support from either course mates or faculty. As we scatter to different corners of the world, let us not forget the bonds we've forged here at Holloway and the friendships that have enriched our lives. Pretty early into our course, we got told about the probable likelihood of failing something across the 3 years. For a group of high achievers who probably didn't have much experience of failure prior to our training, this sent anxiety levels high. The threat hung over us at every hand-in and was something I was determined not to let happen. Initially, I remember thinking our course team had laid it on too thick and were trying to scare us. However, now I realise they were preparing for us as life as clinicians. We are entering into an underfunded NHS system with a burnt-out workforce and will be practising clinicians under immense pressure. If our training journeys had only been smooth sailing, we would not be prepared for the challenges ahead. I'm sure we've all experienced a bit of failure on this doctorate, whether it was a terrible observation of a therapy session or failing an exam. At first, I thought this failure was avoidable and unnecessary, but now I see it as having helped us all develop the grit and determination that we needed in order to be standing here today. So thank you, Holloway, for teaching us to fail, how to learn from it, and bounce back and carry on. And thank you, faculty. You have been our mentors, lecturers, and personal tutors who have nurtured our passions for our respective fields. To our family and friends, thank you for your unwavering support during the long hours of study and the many challenging moments. And to my fellow graduates, as we face the next chapter of our careers, let us remember the lessons that enabled us to overcome these obstacles. Let compassion be our compass and integrity our guide.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing your experience but capturing the experience of so many in that beautiful speech. It's an honour to be chosen to deliver the oration, but you've surely done us all very proud. Congratulations again. So it's now my pleasure to welcome one of our talented students here at Royal Holloway, who is going to entertain us with a brief musical interlude. Will you please welcome into the room Purvit Dudiala. So I'd like to thank Purvitt for that amazing performance. Can we also thank our wonderful quartet who are playing to us today? And at this point in the ceremony, before I make a closing speech, could I invite our graduates, for you are now officially graduates, to thank your guests and supporters for everything that they've done for you over these past years. Please show a hand of appreciation. Thank you. It is truly wonderful to have shared this graduation ceremony with you all, celebrating as we are the fantastic achievements of the graduating class of 2023. So a graduation marks the end of a current period of study, but I hope allows a brief but special time to reflect and to celebrate with everyone who's supported you along the way, from the academics and professional services teams through to family, friends, loved ones and supporters. It really is a crossing of a threshold, both physical but also emotional, and I hope that the ceremony's been moving and meaningful for that reason. It is a moment staged in front of your supporters, whether they're here in person or watching online or just holding you in their thoughts today. But you're also being very actively welcomed as graduates into the remarkable Royal Holloway global community. And it's a community that stretches from here on the beautiful Egham campus to our central London sites to over 120 countries around the world, represented by our vibrant and inspirational international student and alumni community. All of us here today very much hope that your new degree leads you on a career and a life path that is enjoyable and rewarding. We also know that you'll carry within you the spirit of Royal Holloway, which as a university of social purpose is all about making a positive contribution in the world. And we know that's how you look on all of the work that you have done and all that you will take forward. I mean, the subjects that we've got represented here today are very moving and very important. Geography, I always think of as an incredibly capacious and porous programme. It brings together qualitative and quantitative skills. It's interlaced in conversations and dialogue with other disciplines, other skill sets. You've all engaged with so much, it's almost head spinning, but in such a positive way. And just to hear all of those different topics and subjects of research for our Declan Sci, proud of you all, proud of all the skills that you've demonstrated, not least that of team working on your programmes. We live in complex times, as Klaus alluded to at the beginning, but one of the amazing things about university communities is their ability to come together over difficult questions and issues, be they local, national or global, societal or economic. They come together to debate and to reason, to discover, to analyse, to learn together, to support each other, and to find knowledge-based solutions which are often co-produced with many partners, from community groups to industry to policymakers to creative and cultural partners. I am endlessly moved by the communities of practice and of the care and compassion that a university ecosystem holds within itself. And you've heard that today from our students, from what they study and what they do, and from Lucy's wonderful oration. We know, graduates, that you'll use the superpower that is your degree to give back and to make a difference, and we will at Royal Holloway be walking alongside you at every step of the way. In the fine words of songwriter and performer Taylor Swift, I am going to invite you today, apparently it's her special day, I was told that earlier, to be defined by the things you love, not by the things you're afraid of. Royal Holloway has for a long time been committed to being brave and bold and future-facing in all that it does, but we know that our students and our graduates are the very best of that. You are ambassadors and change makers in this complex, but I hope still beautiful at times, world in which we exist. You are carriers of hope and agency and possibility. So as we move towards the conclusion of the formal part of today's ceremony, I hope you have a chance to spend the time with all of your tutors and lecturers and fellow students, and with family, friends and loved ones, and take time for joy with all of them, joy in your massive achievement, But can I also reflect on what today recognises? Yes, those scrolls that you hold are testament, as we've heard, to your hard work, your intellectual capacity, your perseverance in contexts you could only barely have imagined coming into your programmes. I hope also testament to a lot of love and commitment and imagination. But as you ready yourselves to leave this beautiful, special place today, as Royal Holloway postgraduates, those certificates and all they represent are statements, yes, of your potential, but also, as I know, you know all too well, your responsibility in the world. Education is a remarkable gift and a privilege. It's hard work, but it can also do great work in the world. So while celebrating what's achieved, I hope there is time to reflect on what you are all yet to achieve. Just as the history of this amazing place strikes me every single day that I have the privilege to be here as its Vice-Chancellor and Principal, your recent past will be a vital ingredient in making you the person you are. But what you do and what you do next will also be a crucial part of this amazing place's future story. So, whatever your next steps, we wish you light and luck and love in your lives, and we know you will make us proud. So please make the world beautiful, because we know you can. Go, be remarkable, do remarkable things, but be kind, be productive, make a contribution, make a difference. Thank you. Thank you for being part of Royal Holloway's story today, tomorrow, and I hope into the future. You are our greatest achievement, and we are all so very, very proud of you. Thank you. And so, finally, if you feel comfortable doing so, could I ask you to now please stand for the recession?